Okay. So let's make a little start here. All right. Second video, we're going to now start looking at the effects of this water pollution. Okay, so we've looked at the types. So what are the effects? Again, we're just going to make a little note of these here. Very simple. So little subheading, what are the effects of water pollution? And then we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. So this will also feed into our case study at the end. Some things you need to think about. Death of all ocean and wildlife. Okay. So it kills all plants and animals that live in the water. None escape. You can look at the news every single week now, and there's news stories of whales being found floating dead with loads of plastic bags in their stomach and all of this stuff, and it's awful. Destruction of ecosystems and habitats. Okay, kind of same as the first one. Reduction in the quality of drinking water. Obviously, water is one of the most valuable resources in the world. We need it every day, and the quality of our water is getting worse. It spreads diseases. Polluted water is known to spread disease very easily and very, very quickly. All right, which is a huge concern. And this one as well. It's a huge economic cost as jobs are lost and businesses disappear. So if water is polluted and it's killing wildlife, okay, think about stuff like fishing industries. All right, how valuable that is, not just to the Bahamas but to many, many countries. If the wildlife and stuff and starts to decrease, okay, then we start to lose jobs. If the water gets really polluted, tourism might stop because people don't want to come and swim. Our waters are now dirty. Lots of jobs lost, huge economic problems. So that's actually a huge part of the problem. So what are the solutions then? Again, 5 quick bullet points here. I know it's a lot of writing, little subheading, and get this down. So again, very simply, educate people about what is happening in the world. Everyone must be aware now, has to start being aware of the problems in the world, especially in terms of dumping in our oceans. There are actual areas, okay, in the ocean now called dump patches, and they're just these massive big patches or collections of rubbish that just float around the ocean. Okay, it's shockingly bad. Promote people to recycle and use far less plastic. We have to get rid of plastic as soon as possible. Okay, it's an awful thing. It doesn't break down or disappear for many years, and a lot of animals end up ingesting it by accident and so on, and it kills them. Demand that governments make stricter rules on companies to not pollute. Okay, so we want companies to start having stricter rules that stops them from polluting, and start cleanup missions immediately to reduce the damage already done. Okay, now I know the environmental club in the school, we go down and do beach cleanups and try and clean stuff like that. Unfortunately, we could probably nearly do one of those a week. Alright, so whilst this last point is helpful, the real way to do it is put stricter rules in place and enforce them, stop using plastic in the first place, and educate everybody about the damage. Okay, so there are things all of us can do. Very simple. Now we're going to look at a little case study. Exxon Valdez oil spill in Alaska. Okay, so again, just like with the land pollution, I'm going to go through a couple of slides, and at the end there'll be 5 short questions. This is not an assignment, but I do want you to answer these questions in your notes. You'll write the question and the answer. All the questions are given to you in the slides, so it's not difficult. Okay, so first of all, a little bit about where Alaska is. This is America in the white bit. You got Canada, Bahamas just down here. Alaska is all the way up here. It actually belongs to America, but doesn't actually touch America. Okay, so Exxon Valdez oil spill was one of the biggest in history and took place in 1989, the year I was born, so a long time ago for most of you. Using maps, we will describe the location of Alaska. Okay, that's one of the questions you're going to have to do. Exxon is one of the largest oil companies in the world. Okay, so the spill actually happened, okay, in this bit. See this kind of pointy bit? All of this in here. So if I click down, here's Alaska again. There's that kind of pointy bit coming out. This red area is where the spill took place. Okay, so it might look like a small area, but in reality it's a huge area got covered in oil. Now, one thing you have to always bear in mind is, why is this oil being drilled out of the ground and shipped away, even if it's so dangerous for the environment? Okay, the main thing is it's worth billions of dollars. Okay, ExxonMobil is one of the richest companies in the world because the whole world needs oil. Okay, it makes our plastics, it makes our fuel that all our planes and our cars run on and everything else. So it's incredibly valuable. All right, and that's why people are willing to kind of let it happen. Now, I'm not going to go through all of this, okay? I want you to read through this and you can answer your questions. First of all, what happened in Alaska? So here is Alaska now, right? What we're looking at is this bit kind of across here, okay? So they found oil in the north, up to the north of Alaska, and unfortunately, the north of Alaska is near the North Pole, where it's very, very cold, okay? So they couldn't always get up here to ship the oil out in big amounts, okay? So what they did was they built this huge pipeline all the way across the state, okay? It was a crazy idea, and they built a massive, so they drilled the oil here, then they pump it hundreds of miles to the south. In the south down here where it's warmer, the ships can come in all year round, pick up the oil and bring it off in huge amounts. All right? So again, this piece here will help you with one of your questions at the end. On March 24th, 1989, a tanker ship leaving the harbour, so leaving here, was coming out. It hit rocks and oil began to leak out into the ocean. The ship was carrying 50 million tons of crude oil, and at least 12 million tons leaked into the sea. All right? Now, they're impossible figures for you to understand, but it's huge amounts of that liquid. Okay? Again, this is a picture of the pipeline that went across Alaska. You can see it wiggling its way through the whole landscape there. It was a huge, huge undertaking. All right, that in itself did enough environmental damage to the land by clearing trees and so on and removing wildlife. Then what happened is it needed to be shipped, and of course one of the boats caught fire. So you can see this was a still of a live video feed, okay? So as well, oil is highly flammable. So when it leaks in there, it actually caught fire and it gives off this big black cloud. All right, so again, what happened next? So what did they do? Okay, what was the next few things done? What was the cost? How long did it take? Was it a good job? Exxon, first of all, said that they had no responsibility for it at all because they only owned the ship. They didn't own some of the other things. They spent a lot of money. Well, for them, not a lot. Okay, but after 6 months, they said, right, we're finished. And they said that they cleaned up 50% of the area. Now, that's still pathetic. 50% is not good enough. But actually, in reality, at least 60% was left with no help. There was 60% left not cleaned. And worse still, only about 10% of the area was returned to its original state. Okay? So it's not good enough at all. Then the effects. Okay, I've kept this very, very brief. Alright, so it was a complete disaster. 10 years later, oil was still being found washed up on beaches and so on around the coast. 35,000 birds died, 3,000 otters. You could list of animals goes on and on. All right, 90 million of salmon fishing was ruined. Okay, so again, there's the economic cost. So the salmon fishing industry in Alaska is huge, and $90 million was wiped out straight away. Many more creatures and wildlife died, but have never been registered. And then the real sickener, to this day, oil is still drilled, transported, and shipped in this area. So was anything learned? So let's have a little look at the effects on some of the wildlife. You'll use these pictures to help you answer the last question as well. So we got some type of seabird there. This is a picture again. You can see how this is a whale which washed up, covered in oil, and it could no longer breathe. Look at the ground here. That's what crude oil looks like. Okay. Again, I don't know if you can see this clearly, but this is a beach full of birds which can no longer fly because the oil is, first of all, it's too heavy. Okay, so they can't get off the ground, and it makes their feathers all stick together, so they're no longer aerodynamic. All right, and then the last little one, this became a very famous picture of a little bird, again covered in oil and not in great shape. Okay, so a couple of little questions for you to just do about that. Again, this is not an assignment. Okay, describe where the disaster took place. So don't just write Alaska. Be a bit more thorough. Was it in the north or south of Alaska? Which country does Alaska belong to, and so on. Explain why Exxon used this port in Alaska to ship its oil. So why did they use the port from the south of Alaska? Why didn't they use the one in the north? Okay, I've explained that. 3 marks, describe the impacts of the oil spill. Use the images and the text. So again, that should be very straightforward. I listed some impacts, but also the photos we just looked at tell you a lot more. Explain how the disaster was dealt with. Do you think it was done well or poorly? So number 4, or sorry, 4 marks. The first 2 marks of this, how was it dealt with? Okay, so you'll see that's on this slide here. Okay, was it done successfully? Was it done well or poorly? So we talked about how much Exxon said they cleaned up. All right, and finally, number 5, one for you to think about. Oil is still drilled in this area. Do you think it is a good or bad idea? Give a reason for your answer. So do you think, as we talk about the economic benefits, okay, how valuable oil is and all the things we need it for, do you still think it's worth the risk when the impacts of it going wrong are so high? So have a little think about that one as well, all right? Write the question, write the answer, and again, keep it all in your notes.